I gotta get something off
Alright.
my chest here.
Cuffs are coming off.
Christian Bale's Batman sucks.
Let them fight.
Hey YouTube, what is up? Budster Brown back on an episode of the Podcastle here with cousin Kyle again and the Fob, aka Tay, aka something else. So, hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. I ate some turkey or ham. I hear some people do that. Today, we're going to be bringing back the verses here because we need that in our life. We need a little contention. And we're going to do DC versus Marvel. However, it's not going to be like who has the best movies overall because, frankly, DC had about 10 years of misses. And I think it's pretty clear to everyone that Marvel definitely has the more consistent through line of quality. So there's no point in even debating that. However, at the top brass, the top of the top, the best of DC versus the best of Marvel, that is something that can be brought into question. Now, how we're going to do the format of this episode is I, cousin Kyle, and then the Fob are going to give our top 3 picks for Marvel and our top 3 picks for DC. Our criteria on why we might choose one of these movies might be a little bit different, but that's the basic gist of what we're going to do. And then after we all can get our top 3s written down, we're going to try to consolidate our opinions and come to some sort of consensus on where we think all 18 of our movies, we might have some overlap, but all 18 of the movies we choose will rank on a list. So for now, we're going to start with the Fob. All right, Tay, what is your top 3 Marvel movies?
Okay, I got you. So number 1, I think we're gonna have to go Iron Man 1.
Iron Man 1. It's a classic.
choice.
I like that.
Number 2, we're gonna go Infinity War.
Infinity War, another quality pick, I would say.
And then we're gonna go Spiderverse 2.
Spiderverse 2. Wow. That is wow. That's a fun one.
Movie was peak.
All right, Kyle, we're gonna go to your top Marvel list.
All right. So for Marvel, does it have to be in a particular order?
Um,
Or-
preferably, but you don't have to.
Okay. I think for now, for 1 to 3, I think we'll start off at the top. I think I'm gonna go Deadpool,
Deadpool. All right, that's a good one.
and then 2 we're gonna go Logan.
Okay, got the
A bit of a
X-Men.
theme. And then 3 we're gonna go with Spider-Man 3.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
That's not a contentious list.
Unfortunately, MC just didn't make the cut this time.
Wow. No safe picks
The
here.
problem is I'm not even upset with that.
All
list.
right. Well, I'm going to start with number 1. I'm also going Spider-Man 3.
As number 1.
Let's be my criteria is movies that I think are really good that are also my favorites. So maybe not like the objective best, but what is objectivity anyway? You know what I'm saying?
Objectivity is subjective.
My next movie is gonna be Spider-Man 2. No, I'm just kidding. I can't. That's what it would be if I could. I'm trying not to
We
do
had to hold him
trilogy.
back. He
I
was
had to hold.
immediately saying, "It's like just
Yeah.
put the Spider-Man trilogy on. Just
No,
put the
hold
Dark Knight
yourself
trilogy."
back.
No,
Yeah.
no, hold him back.
I'm gonna
Can't
put-
make your entire list of Spider-Man trilogy by Sam Raimi.
Yes. For number 2, I'm gonna do X-Men First Class,
Okay.
Ooh,
That's
Okay.
alright.
Solid picks.
and
X-Men 2 is better, but it's fine.
my number 3 is gonna be Hulk, the Incredible Hulk from 2008.
Oh, you're trying that, are you?
Yeah, we're gonna pull it out. So
You'll try.
I'm gonna start off with my top 3 for DC, and then we'll go kind of back the way we came. For DC, my number 1 is Batman v Superman: The Ultimate Cut,
This is exciting.
Oh wow.
and we're not doing any theatrically released, so technically the ultimate version of it isn't actually like theatrically released, but it's like a director's cut of a theatrically released movie, so I'm going to count it.
First we get
Yeah, that's
Spider-Man
fine.
3, then we get Batman versus Superman.
The number 2 is going to be Watchmen,
Okay.
the theatrical cut. I rewatched the 3.5-hour cut yesterday
Yeah.
with animated
It's a little too
segments
long.
spliced in, and I was like, this movie is too long. So I've opted to put
He
the
says that is too long.
And
May I
he has
remind you.
3.5.
he has
Look,
the
did I put on
3-hour
Zack Snyder's
Batman
Justice
movie
League?
right on
no,
top of it.
I did not. It's closer to Zack Snyder's Justice League length than BVS.
Maybe by like 3
And-
minutes.
And my last pick on my DC list is actually going to be Man of Steel.
Wow, big Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I realized
You're right.
as I was writing it, I'm like, oh man, Zack Snyder. I got Zack
The
Snyder.
Snyder list. Yeah.
All right.
I don't think either. Maybe Watchmen, but the other two. If I was making a Snyder list, the other two wouldn't be on there.
Well, they might not be for me. Well, actually, yeah, Batman v Superman will be on there, but Man of Steel might not. All right, Kyle. For DC, what is your top 3?
For DC, I think above all of them, mine's probably gonna be The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. It's a classic film.
I'm still confused how you didn't have this movie on your list.
Shut up.
Then 2. I think for 2 we're gonna go with Watchmen.
All right. Watchmen at number 2.
Yeah.
Yet again. This one's probably gonna have to rank somewhat high, I guess.
Yeah, and then 3 is gonna be the Batman.
That's a
The
good one.
2022 with Vampire Edward, Vampire Batman.
For me on my list, I was splitting hairs on whether I should put Man of Steel at 3 or the Batman at number 3.
Yeah,
Like that one was like neck and neck. I was going back.
You went for Man
I
of Steel.
I didn't know it was going to be Man of Steel until the moment I wrote it on the thing. So
I can't promise either that or Batman v Superman placing very high.
I'm
on
not
the overall
expecting.
list.
I'm expecting my.
Although they'll probably do better than the
I
Hulk
feel
2008.
I think my top 2 Marvel movies can place high though, and my second in Watchmen can play high.
You have some glass jaws in this box. Around.
Yeah.
All right, Fob. What is your top 3 DC list?
The Dark Knight as well.
Huh. It's fine. Let's
But
play
not
it
for
safe
number
here.
1. No, it's
Yeah.
just my
So
favorite.
safe.
It's the
So
best
safe.
one. Number 2 is Watchmen as well.
Watchmen. Wow.
And number 3 is gonna be Wonder Woman.
All right.
Okay.
Now I like that we actually have a decent amount of diversity here on our
Except
list.
for the
We have a
DC.
lot in the Marvel one.
Yeah.
We almost don't have any of the same. Except for
Spider-Man 3 came in clutch for that.
Spider-Man 3 is okay.
unexpected.
I almost put Spider-Man 2, but I last night I decided, I was like, look, Spider-Man 3 is low-key my favorite movie of all time, so it'd be wrong to not put it.
I think Spider-Man 3 is probably my second favorite Spider-Man movie.
All right,
it was
guys.
Close. It was close to making it.
I almost put Thor 3 on mine actually, but
No.
ended up not
Thor
doing
3 was really good.
Now that we've gotten our movies all picked out, it's time to decide, what do we think? I think we'll try to go worst to best. So we'll
that.
save
Yeah,
the
that's
best for
probably
last.
pretty easy.
So
So let's take a lot of
let's-
Hunter's
let's-
choices
Let's
Uh,
start with
what is the worst movie?
Hulk 2008.
overall.
Okay.
I don't know. So because for me, if you're asking me, hey, which movie do you want to watch? Hulk 2008 or Batman v Superman? The ultimate cut? Sounds like we're hulking
gonna-
out. That's what I.
Well, yeah, okay.
Sounds like it's time to spend.
Now it feels like I have to throw one of my children off the ledge here because I know it's one of those two. I'm gonna try to keep Batman v Superman in here. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to try to throw Hulk under the bus.
Look on the bright side. It's a miracle that it even made it onto this.
I
Yes,
agree.
look, congrats, you're here. Hulk.
Actually,
I'm the only
Hunter.
You
I
got the
think Batman v
nomination.
Superman U is definitely better than Hulk.
So
2008.
You got the nomination.
So,
there was
but-
no way you were winning, but you got it.
Before we execute the Hulk, though, I would like to say a couple of kind words about the Incredible Hulk 2008. I rewatched this movie yesterday. So because I was not sure, I was actually very split between Iron Man 1 and the Hulk. But I remembered really liking it, and I was like, well, maybe I was just in a good mood that day. And I rewatched it again, and I'm like, I still really like it. It's not super flashy. I don't think there's like anything like crazy special about it or symbolic, which I could actually say about the top 2 movies in my Marvel list. So it it's just, I feel like it's paced pretty well. I really like the design of the Hulk. And I also just really like the character of Hulk. And unfortunately, it's the best Hulk movie I'm ever going to get. Like, if you had asked me before the MCU, my favorite superheroes.
Because She-Hulk isn't a movie. I was about to say.
Yeah, if
What if
not,
She-Hulk gets a movie? Will that be the best?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be the best
Ah.
one.
who died?
DC is over.
It's over. Hold on.
So Jover fucking C.
Why is Superman here? Batman's way cooler.
I don't have a Batman action figure as an oversight in my lineup.
Wow.
Do you have a Lego Batman?
Oh, you didn't even pick him up.
I did, but the Batmobile fell off and got destroyed as
I'll
well.
knock over whichever one loses for their franchise.
Wow.
Yeah, this is tough stuff. We're gonna have Superman he doesn't have as good as a base with his
He
feet.
usually flies.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, he came with a stand that had a flying thing, but I gave it to the Vulture because I thought the Vulture broke it somehow, so now I can't use it.
That'll show you.
Ooh, they're not
Yeah.
cross compatible between DC
Yeah,
and Marvel.
that's what I get for putting a DC stand with a Marvel character.
Exactly.
It's like just
Nah,
shattered.
Did not use your brain. All right.
But yeah, the Hulk. I think the Hulk is actually just a solidly paced film. There's not a whole lot wrong with it. I only had like one thing, but unfortunately, hold on, I don't know what number this is because we have some overlapping movies. We'll just put the Hulk here.
36. All right,
Incredible
8,
Hulk. We'll just put Hulk now
8.
right here. Now, what is the next worst movie on this list? That's a good question. I feel
Are
like
we just deciding that the Hulk's at the bottom now?
you're just deciding it, yeah. Overruled.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
overruled.
I don't know that Batman v Superman goes any higher than that.
I feel like it's gonna be pretty low.
Out of the movies we have here, yeah, I think Batman
To be honest,
versus
well,
Superman
it is a
is
stacked
next.
list now. Like the rest, I would say are good movies.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing with Batman v Superman is it's a incredibly personal movie to me in the sense that I watched it the first time and I thought it had a lot of potential, but didn't quite reach it for me. And then I watched it some more and I watched the ultimate cut, and it like slowly and surely just rose up the ranks over the years, and it's my most watched superhero movie since 2016 for sure.
Yeah, it's good. You just have to watch it like 20 times.
You
Yeah.
are Zack Snyder's strongest soldier.
I know, and so I fight the cause every day. I very
Freedom
much
fighter.
really like Batman v Superman. It's a movie that I think has a lot of thematic resonance, and it portrays the characters in a way that I really like. I don't think it's a very beginner friendly movie. If you knew nothing about these characters, this is probably like the worst starting point for you.
I don't know that it makes much of a difference anyways. Because I mean, we talked before about the concept of Batman, where I feel like a movie like Michael Keaton's Batman 1989, I think that's one where if you didn't know about Batman, you're okay going into that movie. Pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Whereas
Except for
I think-
Batman just slaughtering Jokers.
No, that makes sense to
Well,
me.
in the
Well,
in
that's
the
thing, it
context of
makes
that
sense.
movie.
Yes, in the context of that movie, it makes sense if you don't have the preconceived notion of Batman not killing people.
True.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what he's doing, like, it didn't me feel strange. But if you go into Batman v Superman, if you go into it not knowing anything about Batman, you're kind of really confused about who he is and what he's doing. Maybe not. Maybe you can still piece it together. It probably wouldn't be that hard. It's just that you don't understand why that's a cool thing. Maybe it's just seems to be happening for some reason.
Well, what would be even place after Hulk if it wouldn't be Batman versus Superman?
Well, the only
I
other
don't
thing
know.
I can
Every
think of
other
is
movie I think is better.
Man of Steel. I think Batman
Man
v
of Steel's better.
I think
I think
Batman
Man
v Superman is better than Man of Steel.
I like it more, but I think Man of Steel is better.
I think Man of Steel's definitely easier to follow. A lot of the symbolism I think hits better. Just the execution I think was stronger. It feels like a more consistent movie throughout. I think the villain was better.
I think it's a simpler movie, and I think
Sure.
it's executed well in that. But I still think that Batman v Superman it's a more complex movie. But I think because of that, to me it has a lot more substance when you peel back the layers.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, let the tiebreaker between Man of Steel and Batman v Superman be the fact that the theatrical version of the movie is to me not good. And well, it's actually I don't think it's bad. I just think that there's a couple things that
I don't think it's bad.
I don't think it wouldn't be on my top 3, but I don't think it's like horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I even when I watched it, I was like, there's something there, but I felt like it was too hard to follow. There were certain plot points that were left out of the movie that were super super confusing.
Mm-hmm.
The main one being that at the beginning they have
Not
the
enough
desert
slow-mo.
setup where like they show that Lex Luthor's goons are killing everyone, but in the theatrical release they just cut that out. It's not even there. And so like we all see Superman just save Lois Lane and fly away, and then it just cuts to this scene where it's like, yeah, Superman just murdered everyone brutally, like, and then it's like it's almost like trying to lead the audience like, did Superman do that? And we all know he didn't, but we just don't know what happened at all, and it's just too hard to follow. So I think the ultimate cut, it is 3 hours, but I think it needed those 3 hours. There wasn't much you could cut out of it. So whereas it felt like some movies on my list, like Watchmen, there's a director's cut, but the movie still functions as a theatrical release. Batman v Superman is not one of those movies. It needs that extra 30 minutes, I think, for everything to kind of make sense and flow better. But at the same time, you guys both seem to think Man of Steel is a better movie.
Yeah.
So we can put Batman v Superman. Even though I love it, it would be like really, really high.
I mean,
up.
it made it on one of the best comic book movies list.
Exactly. You're here.
Think about that.
Batman v Superman you is going to be here. So I guess that leads, is there anything I think is worse than Man of Steel that I can sway any of you on?
I think now I'm looking at Wonder Woman, I'm looking at Man of Steel, and I think the rest are better.
I think Man of Steel is better than Wonder Woman. I actually think Man of Steel is significantly better than Wonder Woman. Because while Wonder Woman has a great first 2 acts.
Exactly. So my only big problem with Wonder Woman is the villain and the ending. And I think... Okay, now I kind of see your point. Because I really didn't like anything after that, I think. Whereas Man of Steel, there's things to like throughout it. I think
Man of Steel, I would say the first 2 acts of Wonder Woman are better than the first 2 acts. Well, I still like Man of Steel's first 2 acts, but theoretically the first 2 acts of Wonder Woman are better.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think they just blew the ending. Like completely
fumbled the bag.
And it left a bad taste in my mouth. I was expecting to leave Wonder Woman after watching the first 2 acts while I was watching it like, oh wow, this is super good. But because they blew the ending, it's like it really does leave a sour taste in my mouth. Where Man of Steel, I guess for a lot of people, him snapping Zod's neck, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, why would he do that?" But
you guys already know I'm for Batman killing people.
Why not
Superman's
Superman?
never had
Why
a
not
no
Superman?
killing rule. What?
I also think that was a situation where, like, I mean, you could nitpick it, but with a lot of Man of Steel and what it does, I'm like, I see what it's going for, and I don't mind. I think it's cool. I think what they did, I'm like,
I didn't even know Superman wasn't supposed to kill.
And with your Batman 89 thing, I think Man of Steel works perfectly in a vacuum. You don't need any prying on. If you just watch that movie,
we can put Wonder Woman under it.
All right, I didn't know if you were about to defend it.
I'll take the L on that one because I kind of agreed with what you said.
We have the diversity. We have the female-led ones. See, I told you I didn't hate those movies.
Exactly. Where's Captain Marvel though? I don't see that on any of our top threes.
Well, we must have missed it.
So
we'll get it on the repeat.
Yeah, we must have slipped our minds.
Reshoot, we'll get it.
All right, I guess that means. Is there anything else that I convinced Man of Steel? Because honestly, I'm surprised Man of Steel made it this far.
Yeah,
Man of Steel's probably
we're just being generous with some of your movies. Here is what's happening.
I appreciate it. It makes me feel good.
We can put Man of Steel here.
You know what? I'm gonna make a case,
Uh-oh.
Of course.
and Kyle can't really comment because I don't think he's seen this movie. I think Man of Steel is better than Spider-Verse 2.
I've not seen this movie.
I think so, and I will explain why.
I still believe it's better than Man of Steel.
Well, let me tell you why. All right, spoiler. I'm gonna just give a quick little spoiler alert here.
If they haven't seen Spider-Verse 2 by now, it's
Yes.
their problem.
Little spoiler alert for Spider-Verse 2. It's not a complete movie, and not in the way that Infinity War is a complete movie. It's like 'cause
Yeah,
Infinity
what you
War
mean.
works as a complete experience.
Mm.
Spider-Verse 2 ends with this massive cliffhanger. It's not a complete experience. It's not a
But
complete
the
movie.
experience that is there, like from the part 1, is just so peak that it like makes up for it.
Yes, but it doesn't even market itself as part 1, part 2. It's not a complete movie. It's in fact, I would want to put that movie at the bottom of this list. Okay, maybe above Hulk. But I'm saying that Spider-Verse 2 is not a complete movie. It's not. If the next movie sucks, this movie sucks. And that's the thing. It's the next movie has so many delays, it might never come out. And I'm left unsatisfied, unwhole. This is not a complete movie, which is why it should not. Man of
Who
Steel
doesn't want
should
the
beat it.
animators to see
here's
their
what we
families.
can do. Then I think it's pretty. I see your point, and I don't disagree, but it's pretty contingent on the next one being bad, whereas this studio has a really good track record. I'm thinking, could we put Spider-Verse 2 and then put / Man of Steel, and then if the next one's bad, that will decide which one goes where. We'll put Spider-Verse 2 first for now, and then Man of Steel. Man of Steel will be the lower one. They'll be on the same line.
Well, my point is
And
that
if the next Spider-Verse sucks, then it goes lower.
I think Spider-Verse 2 has been delayed indefinitely because of the writers' strikes.
Oh, really?
The
And-
writer's
and-
strike just ended though.
Yeah, but because of that, and also the animators were completely overworked, and a bunch of them quit. It's like
Hmm.
Only if
we don't
Marvel
even know if we're
animators
ever
do
going to
that.
get Spider-Verse 3.
Okay, then I guess the question is, did you enjoy yourself watching Spider-Verse 2?
I mean, I did, but like at the end, I was like, "Oh, I want to watch the rest of it." It's like imagine reading half of a book,
Well,
shutting it, and
this
being like,
movie made-
"That book is so
this
good."
movie made like over $1
I
billion.
didn't finish it.
They're definitely making another one.
I don't think it made over $1 billion.
Well, no, I
no
think
way
they're...
it didn't.
I think you're wrong. I'm gonna fact check you there.
Well,
No,
first
I
of
don't
all,
give
if
a
we're talking
fuck.
about the movie that made the most money, it's not on this list. It's Endgame,
But I get the point. It's hold on.
now if the argument is, will the next one be good? Then
Spider-Verse.
just because it made a bunch of money and they make another one, if they lost a bunch of writers, that causes issues.
2 box office. It's $690 million.
That's because I didn't go to see it.
I did overestimate
you.
That's
Yeah,
my fault.
I knew it didn't get anywhere. It's not the Mario movie. Peak cinema after all.
Yeah, if it was like the best video game movies, then all these would be in trouble with the Mario movie.
Exactly, around the blocks. Better watch out.
You'd have to watch out for Doom movie. You have to watch out for Bomberman.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Y'all seen that one?
Ooh.
Straight-
Oh.
what a banger.
The Marvel Kombat Annihilation.
Next week.
Marvel
Next
Kombat.
week.
The
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat sweep.
Yeah.
I think Spider-Verse 2.
Mortal Kombat's pretty actually up there. The
look,
first one,
we
though.
can redo this maybe one day.
Okay,
but-
you know what?
But Spider-Verse 2 is just not a complete story.
You're
and I
wrong.
can't give a complete story. I can't give a complete story, incomplete story. Than not, especially if Endgame had never come out and Infinity War was the last, I would still have it here. In fact, it might even be on my list, but it's not. So it works as a standalone movie. Spider-Verse 2 is like cut off. No one gets a complete arc. That's the movie. It's the story is contingent on the next one. Yeah, I just think Man of Steel is the better. I think it's the better movie because it's a complete experience, and Spider-Verse 2 is like only a half of something.
Well, let's see. Spider-Verse 2 was like the best animated movie of 23, probably.
You forgot about the Mario
Yes.
movie.
It's not even close. Nothing else even comes close. In Man of Steel, I mean, I don't know what year it came out, but
2013.
I know it's right. I'm just saying, I feel like the impact Spider-Verse had was probably greater. What did the Man of Steel do? It led
Well-
to the eventual reset of the DCEU.
Yeah, but like Spider-Verse 2, like impact.
I don't think that's what we're deciding here.
I don't
though.
think that's not. I'm not even talking. Well, if you want to talk impact, they might not even get another movie. And if you want to talk impact, I think that the first Spider-Verse.
I think
would
you're.
have
I think.
impact.
I
You wanna
think you're
talk
wrong.
impact, then
I think you're
BVS
wrong, and it
less
is
than-
getting another movie.
I think it might, but like
I
it's
think
still,
it's 100% because Sony's gonna get carpet.
I'm just
down by
saying
the
it's been-
fans if
It's
they
gonna
don't.
get another movie. The question is
Is
if
the
that
no-
movie
no-
will be good.
Like I
100
said,
thinks
staff-
it might actually not get another movie. That's why I'm like,
well,
you're
I'm saying
crazy.
that it's not. It's like it's been delayed, and the thing is, it's not a complete story. It's not a complete story, and I just think like if you'd put the first Spider-Verse on your list, I would have bent the knee and been like, you know what, I like Man, but it's not on your list. You put the second movie, which is an incomplete story. It's not
See,
even like
I can only even like acknowledge this argument if we aren't putting Spider-Verse 2 on it at all, just to say like we can't rank this yet. We would just have to not put it on here at all. That's what I think.
I think
We
I
can-
think the difference is that like with Spider-Verse 2, even incomplete, the reason why I would put it above Wonder Woman is because it is a really good, like Wonder Woman just leaves like a terrible taste in my mouth. Spider-Verse 2
There's not a single
let
bad
me
moment.
wanting more, and with the eventual promise of there will be more, but it's like Man of Steel didn't like actively make me mad like Wonder Woman did. And I think the thing with Spider-Verse 2 is it was going to come out, but we don't know how long we're going to wait. And
We can,
you have a lot of faith in Sony, but I think
I
that
do.
I think it can be good. I still think it can be fine. It's just not a complete movie, and we don't even have the hindsight of what the finished product's going to look like. So it's hard for me to even like comment on what the second movie did, or the part 1 did, without part 2. So
we can agree to disagree, and we can since it's a part 1 movie, we'll let that be the tiebreaker. We'll put it under Man of Steel.
yes,
But it's definitely a better movie. And you're wrong, but it's fine.
Yeah. Or Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man verse.
Nah,
But there's
man.
also Spider-Woman.
I'm just
verse.
letting it be a tiebreaker so we can move on with the
I
podcast.
still
Yes.
think we should put like a slash. Just put them both on the same tier for now.
I still like Man of Steel better than this movie anyway. So
Okay.
I've
You
got the
only
dub.
one now.
I've got the
You're
dub.
so high for that.
Well, look, I'm not gonna argue it over any of these other movies. Okay, I mean I could, but I'm not going to. The only one I would go for next is Iron Man 1, but I know I will not win that, so I'm not even going to try.
Well, let's see what else we got now. So we have
maybe
probably say Watchmen.
X-Men First Class.
I think the ones on the chopping block would be like X-Men First Class, Spider-Man 3, and then Iron Man 1, and then maybe Infinity. Well, actually, Infinity War, I
X-Men.
think
So
we'll save Spider-Man 3 for now.
I think what.
Could live another day.
So I love Iron Man 1. Not enough to put it over the Incredible Hulk, but I love Iron Man 1.
Incredible.
I
I think
think-
what we got to decide is like I think the big flaw with Iron Man 1. I was gonna put it on my list actually, but
The end.
I remember the last third of the movie, and I'm like, ooh.
The last third, it's like
man.
it's like it has a little bit of Wonder Woman-itis going on here, where the
I would
first
say it's
two,
not nearly as bad.
but it's not as bad. Like I said, a little bit where
I
it's
actually still mostly like the ending. It's just that it was like wasn't really a conclusion to a character arc. It was just it felt like it was the start of the next movie or something.
I think it's I like the last moments. I just think the climax is, put it frankly, underwhelming.
Yeah, villain was lame.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It- Like I think Iron Man 1 over, let's see, all of these other movies. Like I mean, it's got great competition. The Dark Knight.
I mean,
Watchmen.
X-Men First Class. You don't think Iron Man 1's better than that?
No, I think
I
X-Men
don't think
First.
so.
I
I
think
like all of X-Men First Class.
X-Men First Class is solid from start to finish. And I mean,
Yeah, I think so too.
I could argue X-Men First Class over some of these other movies still, but I don't think I can argue like that the ending of Iron Man not being that solid.
Yeah, so is it better than Infinity War? which I kind of
I
think so.
so this is a tough thing.
Infinity War was the opposite. I think the ending is like the big redeeming part of it for me.
I probably like Iron Man 1 more than Infinity War personally. I think Infinity War is a better movie maybe, but like then I'm getting like hypocritical with my criteria of how I chose movies. So it's like
Mm,
I
you-
think
should we put Infinity War and then Iron Man, or Iron Man and Infinity War? Because I think that's the next two.
I think Infinity War and then Iron Man above that. Infinity War for me has
I know I put Iron Man above it, but I think Infinity War is probably the better movie.
I don't necessarily even think so.
Do you have strong? Does that you have strong feelings either way?
I don't have strong feelings.
I think we'll
either
do
way.
Infinity War,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna do Iron Man.
At least okay, we're better than Man of Steel.
But I don't think Iron Man could get any higher than this at
I
all.
think I already kind of explained why too in the last episode, because I was just how I talk about how good the character-driven movies of the early MCU were.
Now the question
That's
is,
really what I
how can I get Man of Steel above Iron Man?
Okay, can we get
No,
rid
I'm just
of? Can
kidding.
we
Because
get rid
Steel's
of?
stronger than iron.
Can we get
Case
rid of First
closed.
Class now?
For me, out of all of these movies, I would actually put Logan next. Not that it's because it's bad. I just for my personal. If you made a strong case for why Logan should beat some of these movies out, I would be okay with it.
I have.
Okay, here we go.
I've missed the viewing party for this, so y'all can fight it out.
Well, that's the thing. I this is where like Kyle has the experience.
Yeah. So to me, Logan is an interesting case on the list because I think it's the only one on here that you couldn't even really classify as much of a superhero movie at all,
Yeah,
except for the fact that
it's got X-Men.
yes, it has characters with mutant powers, but
Right.
even then, you could deconstruct it, which we'll do that when we get to Watchmen. But Logan to me was just such a refresher, and I think when people make a movie, they say they want an R-rated superhero movie. I think they don't know what they're asking for. It's like asking for the horror movie for Winnie the Pooh. It's like you're asking for something stupid. Maybe it could be fun, but it's stupid. I think Logan was actually taken to the logical extent for what people wanted. Maybe
Yeah.
even some people who didn't know what they wanted. I think it was a good palate cleanser for most of the MCU to reintroduce people to what a real movie is. To reintroduce it's super grounded in reality. It's extremely gritty, and it feels like it was actually set in the real world. And you could almost say it could be a nostalgia factor, but to me, it's taking me back to nostalgia from when movies weren't made for the purposes of like building towards the overarching plot of the MCU. It wasn't for like building up your franchise. Because I don't think this movie does much good for their franchise. I think it was just there to be a good movie. The only thing I can say I dislike about it might be the villain. Even then, I think the villain works for it, though. I think the villain works just fine, and everything else I like about it is just how they adapted it and the storyline. And I think Wolverine goes to the best character arc he's ever had. And a lot of the arcs and the themes they hit really home. And
Well, let me ask you then.
it's a very complete, solid movie to me.
Do you think that Logan should go above Deadpool, even though Deadpool is number 1 on your list?
Maybe not, but we'll get to it. We'll get to why.
So I think Logan is solid. Like I said, I've only seen it once.
I just think, especially when you consider X-Men First Class, a movie that I really like, and consider if you don't consider Logan an X-Men movie, then I think X-Men First Class would be the best X-Men movie.
Yeah, so I think Logan's maybe a better movie because it feels like a movie. I mean, it reminds me of
Really makes you feel like you're watching a movie.
No, there's this one line where Harry Styles is like,
My favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie.
and I always clowned on him, but here I am doing the same
That's
thing.
the Star Wars Episode 9. It's like I had a good time at the movies. But yeah, X-Men First Class, it's going to pain me to even criticize the rest of these movies, but X-Men First Class, I think, had a little bit of maybe wasted potential. And
I think X-Men First Class should go next, even though we're crossing off my list.
Yeah.
But well, I still got Spider-Man 3.
We still
But
got Spider-Man. I don't know how much
Strongest
longer it's gonna
movie.
last.
I think X-Men First Class. I do want to give First Class its flowers real quick because it's the best X-Men movie other than maybe Days of Future Past. I think X-Men First Class is a little bit better. And I think it has my favorite X-Men scene of all time, which is when Magneto puts like the coin through the guy's head. Like,
I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to move the coin.
oh, it was so good. And it like ties back to the beginning.
yeah,
The music was perfect. It has my favorite moment. And I think in a lot of ways it carries the movie for me. Not because the rest of the movie is bad. It's just that moment is so great.
it's really good. It's
Yeah.
a great moment to complete Magneto's character arc and everything. I think it's that one, in comparison to Logan, is a fun superhero movie in addition to something that can be taken more seriously. I think for me there was a couple things at the end that sort of tripped a little bit, not like falling flat on its face like maybe Wonder Woman or Iron Man, but like it has a better ending than those, though I still feel like it was showing some cracks in it a little bit.
Yes.
Still a very good movie though.
Yeah, and I think it's really good, but I think Kyle's probably right in saying that Logan is better than X-Men First Class. But I don't know if I would put I'm going to X off this. I don't think I would put Logan above any of these other movies.
I think the next one we might have to go for is Spider-Man. Well, it's kind of all of them now. I think the rest of the list, I don't know what we are going to do.
So I will defend Spider-Man 3 till I die. My goal is to get this near number 1. But
I think the Batman could be
I was going to
chopping block, honestly.
So you said
That's what I was thinking.
Logan versus the Batman. You see, the tough thing is I'm very familiar with the Batman. I've seen it 6 times. I've seen Logan once. So I think the Batman is better. But I think the difference is it's kind of in a separate spot from Logan as Batman. The Batman is almost an origin story without having to see Bruce Wayne's parents get killed again.
Oh yeah.
So
Very
which
refreshing.
I do appreciate.
Yeah.
I think the Batman does a lot right, whereas Logan is the end point for Logan's career. So it's the conclusion. The Batman is the beginning. So
Again, everything Iron Man up. These are like really good movies that we appreciate a lot about.
yeah, so it's like this is once we're getting to that splitting hairs thing where it's like I love all of these movies.
I would say I used to like the Batman more than the Dark Knight. And I was thinking at the time, I'm like, I really hope this isn't just like rose tinted glasses because it's just so refreshing. But I think no, I still feel the same about that movie. It's just now I sort of recognize how the flaws of it make it not hit the same for most people.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I mean, for my list, I never actually said, but it's like I would say most of these like in line sort of with what my favorite movies are, but I would say I'm going more objective with it and saying like, is this movie easily recommendable as a good movie to other people? And that's really what I'm going for. So, in that way, I think parts of the Batman don't hit for people quite the same. There's some things that I do think are a little silly about it. Mainly, of course, with the ending, it sort of comes out of nowhere. It's hard to say that Batman really solved the mystery, so to speak, and it's. I will say it nailed the character arc, which is the really important thing, which is I think why it still stayed with me really well.
See,
it
I
was
actually want to see if I can get the Batman above the Dark Knight. I think the Batman is top tier.
No.
The thing is, I can see that. It's just I don't know where to hit the Dark Knight. I don't know the flaw.
I think the ending. So, I can hit the Dark Knight in a couple of ways.
Okay.
So I think if we're talking about the Dark Knight, I think that the Dark Knight, its ending, well, I think is thematically kind of cool when you when you take something so grounded, like Nolan's Batman trilogy, and then you have the ending basically be as well, the only way it can be resolved is if Batman takes the fall for this. It felt like there was other ways out of the movie than Batman taking the fall.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's perfect.
I think
I
that
think that ending was perfect for that movie.
Yeah, I agree.
I disagree. I think that it felt a little bit like, why can't you just say the Joker did it? Why can't you say like some random guy killed him? Why does it have to be like Batman takes the fall? I think it's something you kind of nitpick a little bit, but it is something that I think about.
I
Well,
don't think it's so much of a have to either. I think that's what they went with because they wanted to. And I think that goes the same for the characters in the movie.
Like it feels like a little too convenient the way they got to the solution that they did.
Yes, I see what you mean, but that's what else you got? What other hits do you got? Because I don't think that's a strong argument personally.
Well, I also think that like the action sequences, which I know is not like this staple of a great movie,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a lot of kinetic energy. I don't like the way Christopher Nolan shoots action. And so
Mm-hmm.
from a story perspective, I think is cool, but it's still good. Like I said, I really like The Dark Knight. This
Yeah.
isn't me saying like,
I mean,
Yeah.
all these are gonna hurt to criticize.
yes,
it
like
more.
if you're basically like
yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
So then, if we're saying action scenes, which I don't disagree with you on, because
yeah,
I mean, honestly, if we have to choose action scenes in like superhero movies, if we can have at least this, I'll take it. Like
Yes.
it's still perfectly fine for me.
I th-
The thing is, yeah, now I can see like the action scenes in Logan are better. I would say in Spider-Man 3, I like those action scenes more.
yeah,
In Deadpool, it's definitely Deadpool has the best action scenes out of all of these, without a doubt.
it's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I think spectacle wise, like The Dark Knight, and that's not the point of the movie. I understand. I'm saying I'm talking my personal tastes. The Dark Knight doesn't have a lot of I don't think it has pizzazz. I think the movie doesn't really
Well,
have
I
like,
think
that
it's-
much style.
I think it's trying to be more of like a
A ground
darker, more grounded, like not necessarily, not even like a superhero movie. I think it's trying to be more like
but at the same time, the Batman doesn't necessarily feel like a superhero movie as much either, but it has more spectacle, and it's still a little bit. It's
It
still
has a unique
grounded.
character has
Yeah.
like it has a personality.
On
Didn't
top,
they try to flood an entire city
of,
and like got like halfway there, or didn't they actually do it?
Yeah, they sort of
Yeah.
flooded it.
yeah, but like I mean,
It was just if they could save people, and Batman saved a lot of people.
yeah, and I think that, but I still think that's like it could happen. You could blow it.
Yeah.
It's still It's not as grounded as the Dark Knight, but with Batman, I like a little bit of a heightened reality, but it still actually does stay grounded. Like if you ask me what grounded take I would prefer the Batman's grounded take over the Dark Knight's grounded take. If you ask,
I think I like the take, but to me, I guess next we could get into
And
the
the
villains.
Joker is so much better.
I think
than
the villains
Riddler.
in the Dark Knight are better. As someone who I still really like the villains,
The Joker
in
is
the
so much
Batman,
better than the Riddler.
I don't think they're gonna be as iconic as the Dark Knight for a pretty good reason. There's nothing that really beats like the Joker speaks for itself. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker completely speaks for itself. I think that was also the movie that made me like Two-Face the most. I think that movie gets the character exactly right for me. And he's iconic. He has a cool moniker, and everything he does makes sense for his character, and it goes for both villains. And it's just, I think it nailed that part of it. Where I don't think Batman, I don't think it quite nailed it for me. with the villains.
I can't argue that because Heath Ledger's Joker is such a good version of the character. He's probably, even though it's maybe not the most comic accurate, who gives a crap? Because I still think
We're not arguing.
yeah,
comic
we're not
accuracy.
doing
none
that.
of it's comic accurate.
Yeah, it's.
Who
I
cares?
think that he's probably my favorite version of the character. I also
Probably mine too.
I like the little cameo from Scarecrow, but that's not the real thing. It's Two-Face is the. I think
Yeah.
I like the take on Two-Face. I think it's really good, but But at the same time, I'll say this. I'm going to give the Batman two things here. I think that the Batman does still have great villains. The Riddler
I
is
think so.
is still a really, really good villain. It's the best version of the Riddler we've got on screen, and no one can say that.
Yeah.
Because it is. And it's the best theatrical Riddler, but I mean Jim Carrey is the competition, to be fair. And then you also have the Penguin. You get Catwoman. You get a lot of really, really good versions of different characters.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing. The Batman has Gotham feels way more fleshed out. And
Well,
it feels distinct. It feels like Gotham City. Dark Knight does not feel like Gotham City. I also would have to say the other thing I'm going to give the Batman is that
Okay.
Batman himself is better than Nolan's Christian Bale's Batman. You can make a case that Nolan's Batman, and you'll be right in this case, that Nolan's Batman portrays Bruce Wayne in a more like a certain way that's maybe more
A more
accurate,
convincing
a
way.
more convincing
It's
way.
like, oh yeah, he's good at pretending to be a billionaire.
Yes. And
Robbie
well,
P
he
is
is one,
like
but he's
so
good at pretending to
angsty
not be
in
Batman.
Robert Patterson is too angsty as Batman. For
But
me.
if
He's
you
like-
look at it, if you look at the movie in a vacuum, I think that the Robert Pattinson's Batman makes complete sense, and it also is in line with how Batman was expected to act early on, and
Mhm.
it's also he has a really, really solid character arc.
I like his Batman and
Yeah.
I like his Bruce Wayne, which both I would say I probably like more and might even be better than the Dark Knight. It's just that I don't think the Dark Knight actually suffers from having a bad Batman.
It doesn't. I'm not like I
Or
said.
not even like I don't think that movie doesn't lose much for me for like Christian Bale not being my favorite Batman, because I think it puts a good focus on the rest of it.
I agree. Like I said, I think they're both great movies, but if I think that
You're convincing me again that I probably like the Batman more, but I don't know that I'm totally convinced that it's the better movie than the Dark Knight.
well, I
That I
guess
would put higher on the list.
I guess for me, with the Batman and the Dark Knight, it's that I think the Dark Knight, why I don't like it as much as the Batman, I'll say, is that I feel like it doesn't have the same style as the Batman. Like I mean, like it's shot in such a grounded way, and it just feels like your average city. Whereas if you look at Batman Begins, it feels a lot more like Gotham. The way
Mhm.
that they used a bunch of practical sets to like sort of craft this sort of Gotham City. The Dark Knight, it just feels like a regular city.
I mean, a freaking bank just gets robbed. So I mean, it's
It's a
pretty.
great scene.
You don't. It's not like an everyday occurrence on like your average city. I would say. Not to say like it doesn't happen in other cities, but I mean, hospitals are getting blown up. I feel like it's Gotham. Okay, like
I'm saying it is Gotham. It's just, I guess what I'm talking about is the production design. The production design in the Batman is a lot better, I feel. And like I said, I'm basically
I just don't think you like the way Nolan.
well, but that's what I'm arguing. Look, I have to argue some sort of style. I'm saying stylistically, I think the Batman is better than the Dark Knight. And like I said, I mean, you can disagree with that. I'm just saying I think it's stylistically better. This is why I think it's stylistically better. This is why I think it's stylist. The Batman is stylist. It works better for Batman. And I think that in the
I don't
Batman,
think so.
Batman is like the best character in his own movie, which I can't say about the Dark Knight. And as Kyle
I agree.
mentioned, it's that doesn't necessarily make the Dark Knight bad. Like Batman not having this definitive great character arc doesn't make the Dark Knight bad. He doesn't
Yeah,
need it
I
for
think
that
especially
movie.
for a sequel movie, he doesn't
Yes.
necessarily need it.
But if you ask me what I prefer Batman having a stronger presence in the movie than having like a super, super, super great villain, especially when the Batman does still have great villains.
Well, it's like it's still a good Batman. It's not like it's a bad Batman. It's still really good. It's still
you
really
know
good,
what?
and you got really good
All right.
villains. So it's overall
Let me-
better than
let me tell you something.
Batman 22.
All right. I gotta get something off
Alright.
my chest
Uh-oh.
here.
Cuffs are coming off.
Christian Bale's Batman sucks. I don't like him. All right?
You're right.
I don't like the way his suit looks.
You're right.
I don't like the way his voice is. It's okay in Batman Begins, but by the time it gets to the Dark Knight, it's like
it only gets
I
bad
can't-
in returns.
I can't-
It's fine.
I can't-
It only gets
Not in
bad in
returns.
returns.
it's not returned. I can't take
Not
it
in
seriously.
returns.
Every time he's talking, like he's having a cool moment with the Joker, and it's distracting. Every single time he's like, "You gotta sing to your love."
That's his only.
it's like,
that's
I can't take
literally
it
his
seriously.
only flaw.
Okay, but like I said, I don't think his physicality. Like, if you look, say what you want about BVS but Ben Affleck's physicality is way more convincing as Batman. Robert Pattinson's physicality is way more convincing. Like when I look at Christian Bale's Batman fighting, it doesn't make me believe that, oh yeah, this guy could definitely get away with doing this as long as he's doing it. Whereas the other
No, I
two,
disagree. I think it does.
definitely.
I'm saying that I'm talking me personally. I think that the way he fights is just when he uses the gadgets, it's okay. But I say that if you look at the other two, I find that like Christian Bale is got the worst physicality, don't like the suit, don't like the voice, and he doesn't have a character arc. In the Dark Knight is like the worst part about the Dark Knight. And it's cool. And I still think the movie's great, but if you're asking me like I mean, I don't like Christian Bale's like Batman. It's not his fault. It's not like I'm saying he gave a bad performance. I think
you saying the
but-
Dark Knight is the worst part of the Dark Knight is like, yeah, Dark Knight's on the lower half of S tier, while Joker's on the upper half. Like I feel like it's really solid still, more solid than you seem to think.
well, I think that
I still think a lot of things about the Dark Knight are just very, very iconic. Like
I agree.
just the Joker's performance completely steals the show. The scene of him blowing up a hospital is super iconic.
It is.
The scene where he pits the boats against each other is really good. I like everything that Two-Face does, and I just feel like all of that overall makes it a more solid movie than the Batman.
Well, that's fine. I'll put the Dark Knight over the Batman. All I can say is that I like the Batman
I'm not
more.
familiar with
Spider-Man 3 next. I will leave the Batman here for now, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think Spider-Man 3 is probably next.
Is Spider-Man 3, is that the next one we're discussing over the Dark Knight or Logan?
Yeah.
So, I think the thing with Spider-Man 3...
People are surprised it's made it this far.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
That's,
They just happen to get 3 Spider-Man
fine.
3 enthusiasts.
When you grow up, maybe you'll realize how good it is.
exactly.
It's rare you'll get 3 Spider-Man 3 enthusiasts in a room.
I know. It's
But hey, it is.
So I think the thing with Spider-Man 3 is that it's my favorite movie of all time.
But it's
It's not the best movie of all time.
I'm not laughing because I disagree. Like, that I think that's such a bad take. I'm laughing because a lot of people think it's such a bad take.
Look, one day I'll do a video on
That's okay.
Spider-Man 3 and talk about why it's so good.
I think
And
the
why
Dark
everybody else is
Knight.
wrong
I think
about
the
it.
Dark Knight is just not objectively, but basically objectively so much better than Spider-Man
I
3
think
that
the
it's
Dark Knight is an easier sell.
It's an easier sell.
It's hard to rank
sure.
Spider-Man 3 over.
Like-
you know,
But am I here
Okay,
But am I here for
so-
people to take me seriously, or am I here to go with my heart? That's what you have to ask yourself.
So, yeah, that's what I've been asking.
It's,
myself. Otherwise, I'd put the
look,
Batman above most of them.
if I was here to be taken seriously, BVS and Man of Steel would not have been on this list. Okay, so or the Incredible Hulk. Okay,
Yeah, because they're all that much better than all of these. Actually, there's some
Exactly.
higher tier above that.
clearly.
So-
I'm not here to be taken
the
seriously.
people wouldn't listen though.
I'm not here for the people to love me.
They hated Jesus because he told them the truth.
Dark Knight,
God.
Spider-Man 3. I think
So
Spider-Man
to-
has Peter Parker has a character arc. Dark Knight doesn't have
He
one.
does.
L.
Peter Parker does
L.
have a character. So I think we got to decide if we're gonna put the Dark Knight here. I think we might. So we have to make our case for Spider-Man 3 though.
All right, so
Spider-Man 3.
luckily we have two Spider-Man 3
I think you
enthusiasts.
could almost even argue everything about Spider-Man 3 is really good.
Yes.
I think it really hits in a lot of ways. I think utmost above all of them that it gets over the Dark Knight is that it is a really, really good superhero movie.
Eddie Brock is really bad though.
I disagree.
I don't agree.
I don't agree. I think Eddie Brock's great.
No, I don't. I think he's pretty bad. I mean,
What do
I
you
think
not
he's-
like about him?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like
Oh, yeah. Getting ready, getting geared up.
Spider-Man 3 is done.
getting ready to defend Eddie Brock to the freaking tooth and nail. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
I mean, you put me on the spot, but I just don't really like him.
Sheep.
Okay, well,
you don't have
to
a
me-
reason.
Sheep.
No,
I didn't even know people
Good
didn't
try,
like him.
bro.
I don't spend my time watching Spider-Man 3 reviews.
Dang, God hit me like that.
Well,
that's because I have to hop into every comment section and tell
It's
them why they're
true.
wrong. So
So to me, I mean, if to address Eddie Brock, I think he's a really good character actually because he represents a sort of character that we hadn't really had before, like a direct antagonist to Peter Parker,
I
even more than
can-
Spider-Man.
I can kind
I
of.
think he's a more realistic kind of bully in the workplace, where he's like a really competitive force in the workplace, trying to push him out. Like that's a real kind of person that people have to face and deal with all the time.
I liked his death scene a lot, actually.
That was pretty cool.
it was awesome. I think
And yeah,
he's just such an entertaining
Maybe
little
my
weasel too.
yeah.
That's okay. That's one thing I'm gonna say. Spider-Man 3 is a way more entertaining movie than The Dark Knight.
Well, it depends.
think so.
It depends on how you're looking at like what mood are you in? If you're in a mood for like a serious movie and you watch Spider-Man 3, you're gonna be disappointed.
But the thing is, if
I
you,
guess if you look for an entire serious movie, then sure. But if you're looking for a comic book movie, then it's better.
I think Spider-Man 3 is a better comic book movie than The Dark Knight.
Yeah, because at this point you can't say like this movie's better because it's better at this. They're both better at some things.
True.
So I think overall it's just Spider-Man 3. It just for me it really does almost everything right.
And I think
Whereas-
it's like there's so many layers to why Spider-Man. I think it's shot like really like intelligently. I think
Mhm.
Sam Raimi behind the camera, he's just got so much style, but it's not as distracting as well. It's not to throw my main man's Zack Snyder under the bus, and we'll get to Watchmen, but he has a style that is cool, but it is like distracting.
sometimes intrusive to the movie.
Yes, like where he will just put slow motion sequences
this
with
is a Zack
soft
Snyder
break,
movie.
with like
Ooh, Zack
it-
Snyder made
like
this
you watch
movie.
a Zack Snyder
Ooh.
movie, you'll be like, yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, that's him.
Chugging
So-
along here.
Whereas I feel like with Spider-Man 3, Raimi very intelligently has his own signature style, but it never feels like, oh, that's hampering the movie. Like when
It enhances the drama very well.
exactly, he does lots of great close-ups on faces. He moves the camera around a lot in really cool and interesting ways. Like this one shot where Spider-Man, black suit Spider-Man, swinging through the subway, and he's like moving his webs and cool, and the camera's just following him as it's like adds so much velocity and momentum. I think that it's when you look at Peter Parker, he has a great character arc. Sandman's a great villain.
It
You
has a lot of iconic scenes for me too, and especially just how it mixes the music with it. A lot of people don't consider the music like a huge argument. Most of these even have good music. It's
Yeah.
just that I think Spider-Man 3, probably out of all of these, mixes the music best with its scenes to make it feel like a super complete, impactful thing. Because
Yeah.
if we go through the iconic scenes because of that, I love the scene where is it Frank? What's Sandman's name? It's Frank something, right?
No, it's not. It's Eddie. Sandman is Flint Marko.
That's right.
Flint Marko.
I was thinking
Um,
Punisher Frank Castle, but it's
yeah.
like
I think for the
when he becomes Sandman, I think that's a super iconic and emotional scene. I love the scene where Spider-Man is at the bell tower and gets the black suit off of him, and just a bunch of other things in the movie that I think it is directed super well.
I feel like the soundtrack on Spider-Man 3 is really good with how it mixes with it, but I think the Dark Knight soundtrack might mix a little better.
Well, because
I can't argue. I think Watchmen's probably got the best soundtrack
Watchmen?
for the movie. But
I don't know.
I
I really like the Watchmen soundtrack.
I like the Watchmen
take.
soundtrack. I just don't think it's
Hot
better.
take. I don't know if it's a hot take.
What
but
do you
it's a
like
hot
about the
take.
Watchmen soundtrack? I mean, I like it. Well, I
I
think.
like how it mixes with the scenes, I suppose.
Well, I can. We'll get to Watchmen soon.
But
there's
yeah,
a
we're not
lot.
talking. We're not talking about that
There's
right
a long
now.
video
but
already, but we still got a lot to talk about.
I think Spider. I like.
I think Spider-Man 3, when it's working, is more.
I
It's
feel
a
like
better artistic movie than The Dark Knight, and that to me just.
I feel the same way about the Batman, but you know what? I'll take what I can get.
Well,
Yeah.
the difference is I also think Spider-Man 3 has fewer weak points, surprisingly. But to like address
Yeah.
some of the weak points, I don't think it has too many villains. To me, it makes perfect sense when I watch it.
Yeah.
I think the only thing where it slips up with that is when, like, people didn't like that Venom basically
Yeah.
didn't have an origin, just came
Yeah.
from space. And it happened to go near Spider-Man. Whatever, I don't really care, I guess.
Yeah.
I just don't really care about that.
It's a comic book movie.
And then I think it's that, like Eddie Brock kind of just teamed up with Sandman, randomly found him, and just immediately they're like, "Hey, let's just team up," and it's sort of simple. But I don't know. I also don't think that's too intrusive or didn't ruin my experience or anything. I think
Yeah.
everything else after that is super cool. I think it was like the first time that a live action superhero movie had that kind of like team up with him and Harry,
Yeah.
and I absolutely adore that. I think it's like one of the coolest moments in superhero movies because, I mean, it's sort of dumb fun, but it does that so perfectly. Like
Well, and it's also their best friends that have been fighting for the whole movie for like almost the whole
it's also like
franchise.
it's a completion of their character arcs too.
They've
It's
finally
really cool.
they've finally gotten over like the beef between Green Goblin and stuff, and they work together.
Yeah.
I just think there's a couple of problems I have. I think there's some tonal issues at times. Sam Raimi's usually really good at balancing tones, but I
Mhm.
felt like
He had a
with-
lot to do with this movie.
yeah, with Spider-Man 3, I feel like he's sometimes missed. But I still think it's great overall, but there's a couple times where I'm like, you have this goofy dance sequence with him and Gwen Stacy, and then it immediately cuts to Peter Parker
Just beating up
smacking Mary Jane.
beating up
Yeah.
woman, man.
Like that's
in the club.
I think the first one is totally fine, but it's
To me, I still like that scene because it is goofy.
Yeah.
I think maybe it could have been a little less goofy at first just to do that, but
Yeah.
that scene's awesome for other reasons.
yes,
of course.
exactly.
But it was just
Entertainment.
that, like, it goes to show. I think it properly conveys at least how awkward a situation can get very quickly.
Yeah.
Because like situations like that, they do kind of come out of nowhere. And it was just that, like, I mean, the Venom suit is sort of a reference to drugs and what that can do to you.
Yeah.
And I think that accurately conveys like how sort of bipolar it can make somebody, and they just lash out randomly like that.
Yeah. Like I said, it doesn't the tonal
It's not perfect. But
it's not perfect, but like it doesn't hamper my experience. I've never like, oh man, that was so terrible watching the movie. It's like
Yeah.
I think Spider-Man 3 is incredibly underrated. I think it's got a lot of thematic symbolism. I think it's got a lot of like it's got so much energy. It's really funny, but it's also got a lot of heart.
Mhm.
And I think the climax is perfect. And to address Venom, it's like I think Eddie Brock, just like you don't always need like your villain to be super fleshed out. I think you're here to be as fleshed out. Like Eddie Brock works, it serves his function in the movie, and I think in a very entertaining, fun, and Weasley way, while also showing like it shows what like addiction can do to someone so good as Peter Parker, catching him at a low moment too,
Yeah.
where his ego and pride's at its highest point, and then it shows what it can do to a good person, Peter Parker, and then I think Venom, like I see this symbiote in a way as a villain of the movie, and Peter as a somewhat of a villain of the movie at times, and the symbiote, Eddie Brock getting the symbiote is just like showing what Peter Parker could have became if he had kept going down that path.
Yeah.
And it's like he's fighting himself in a way. He's fighting what
And in
yeah.
a way, what happened to Eddie Brock is still Peter Parker's fault because he ruined his life otherwise.
Yeah.
So that was all he had left to turn to.
Yeah.
Realistically, of course, he could just choose not to be evil.
Yes.
But it's like, that's the arc, and that's his perspective. And it's like, that was sort of the path he was destined down. I think even then, The Dark Knight might be a more, like, it's the easier movie to recommend because it's just really solid and good. But for me, the artistic parts about Spider-Man 3 put it above The Dark Knight, probably.
Well, another thing I like to say And
Mhm.
one last offense to Dark Knight.
Before we put it
I
below
like-
Spider-Man 3.
I really hope not, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good. I don't think there's any bad character, like any characters I really don't like in the Dark Knight. I really don't like MJ in Spider-Man 3.
I still think she's fine.
I think
actually.
she works
Because
just
I think as kids
She
we don't
is-
like her because she's just annoying and
It's like she's cheated far too much to be that annoying.
Well, I mean, I think she serves her purpose in the movie.
She's like a serial cheater, and she's complaining
more
about like an
complicated
innocent
than that.
it's
kiss.
a lot more. Well, it's like not to quote MJ, but you're not. She wasn't there. He wasn't there for her. She can't do this. It's over.
Well,
No,
it
it's-
also is like that's a pretty good portrayal of like why people eventually go to cheat is they feel like their
yeah.
partner isn't really there for them when they need them to be, and it's like they're not fulfilling their side of being in a relationship, and they're too focused on themselves. And Peter really was focused on
Well-
himself. She was completely right about that.
Well, as someone who's recently married, it's when being in a relationship, a lot of times, like if you look at being Spider-Man as like a job in a sense, like sometimes your work makes it so you're too busy to be emotionally available, and that can sometimes cause issues. And so, in this case, it caused issues on top of the fact that he was being an egomaniac, and on top of the part that he's got the symbiote, he's
Beating woman.
diving into his addictions, and then
Yeah.
it's like I feel like it works like well. I'm not gonna say like, oh, MJ is just such a likable character, but I think she's a realistic character in the movie.
Well,
Yeah. She's not like Amber and Invincible. I don't know.
I hate that.
Okay, well we're not talking about Invincible. Like Mary Jane's not complaining that Spider-Man is saving people or that he's being Spider-Man. She's not complaining that, oh, sometimes I want to do things and you're not here. She's talking about how like she just feels alone while still being in this relationship.
Well, and there's just like
Even when he's there, she feels alone.
there's such a great moment where she's basically like reading these critics in these columns, and she's like, I read these words and I hear like, and it sounds like it's my father who's always doubting her, and then as like Peter's gonna say something, it's like the call for Spider-Man kicks in. He's like, yeah, that's great and all, but I gotta go be Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
And
the
you
fact
just-
that he doesn't
yeah.
like call her about it later or pick it up.
No.
At least we don't see.
And there's so many interesting dynamics in the movie.
well, obviously, it's more reasonable for MJ. Like if you go beyond face value, but I still think she's a little unreasonable sometimes.
Well,
That's okay.
And
It's
we're
just
all-
that it's
yeah.
a complicated world. Like she was just going through
True,
something
true,
at the
true,
time.
so
That's I think Spider-Man 3
don't
is
I think-
understand woman.
I think we're gonna. Does the dark okay? Here's a better question. So I think Spider-Man 3 has cemented itself so far. We're gonna put it up here on the list.
Oh, do we still have something that the Dark Knight's fighting?
Watchmen.
Watchmen.
No, I don't think so. I think Watchmen's better than both of
No,
these.
Yeah.
Watchmen has
Maybe
this-
Logan.
it has an argument for the top spot right now.
Oh wow. Yeesh. I'll have things to say about Watchmen. Why I think maybe Spider-Man 3 should go above it, but because I'm not a. But I think
All right, so
We-
we're arguing what Spider-Man 3 is
So-
fighting now.
so. Spider-Man 3, we still have. Let's get rid of the Dark Knight.
So we get rid of the Dark Knight, so we only have Spider-Man 3, Watchmen,
Logan and Deadpool.
Spider-Man
So,
3 probably
I
is
think.
not better than
I
Deadpool.
think Deadpool should be next.
No.
Have you
What's
seen
wrong-
Deadpool?
what's
I
the
have
matter
seen
with
Deadpool. I have seen Deadpool.
What's the matter with Deadpool?
So it's not that there's anything wrong with Deadpool. I think Deadpool works just fine as a. It's like a good funny movie.
Mhm.
To me, it doesn't have the same all around appeal as Spider-Man 3. I think Deadpool is great for what it is, and I think it executes what it is really well. I think that Spider-Man 3 is got
Action sequences though.
it's true. The actions, but I mean,
I think I like. I don't know that I can even think of something I don't like in Deadpool. Is the problem, or just like a weak point of the movie? Everything I can think about. Hey, what's good about a movie? I think about how it is in Deadpool, and I'm like, no, It's got that perfect. It's got it down. I think the direction is on point. Cinematography is on point. It's extremely funny. The action scenes are amazing.
It seems like it's probably accurate to the comics. Just
I've-
I don't actually
never
read
really
the
Completely
comics.
Not, no.
I
But
don't read the comics, but it feels like that type.
Well,
of...
like I said, we're not ranking these off comic book accuracy. We'd have to switch some things around.
Whoa,
but-
you brought it up.
super fun
You brought it
movie.
up for a point for the Batman. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
look
we
where the
got it.
Batman is. It's below the Dark Knight.
I'm
Just
just saying.
Just
Saying you brought it up.
it wasn't altered by comic opinion.
Yeah.
But no, it's just I think Deadpool's super solid to me. Where it's like Spider-Man 3, I'm like, I think it has a couple weak points, and I can see where people wouldn't like it. But with Deadpool, I mean, I don't think it's a valid argument to say like it's not going to appeal to some people, just because it's like that sort of almost would disqualify it for those people.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't think being open to more people, like if you are a PG movie as opposed to R-rated, which maybe isn't necessarily what you're saying, but that's like a metaphor for it. Like, I don't think that makes it necessarily better. I think for the people who are gonna try to watch Deadpool, I think Deadpool works perfectly fine.
Well, but that's the thing. I think Deadpool works well in the niche, but I also think that it's good, but it's not. It works really well as an action comedy where Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and makes funny jokes about how, yeah, they don't have the budget to show off the rest of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's the only role I like Ryan Reynolds in, basically. it's
Hot take, Detective Pikachu.
This dude hasn't seen Green Lantern.
It's good.
And
Wow.
also Detective Pikachu.
I almost put Green Lantern on my list just to make people mad.
I think
But
I'm a
Beats
Detective
more than people
Pikachu
would like to
apologist.
No.
I'm a Detective Pikachu apologist. Take it back.
I don't need to
Ryan
be an
Reynolds.
apologist. It's good. Everyone else is wrong.
I don't hate it.
My brother.
Let's go.
I don't hate Detective Pikachu, but it's not my favorite Ryan Reynolds.
It's also not as good as the movie Deadpool.
It's not as good
Yeah,
as Deadpool.
I think Deadpool, like I said, it executes what it is really well, but at the same time, I feel like while it's consistent in quality, I think that the highs of Spider-Man 3 and the highs of Watchmen would outrank it, because I think that Deadpool is a consistent movie. It is consistent, but it doesn't. I think it's funny, but it doesn't have that same like impact with me personally.
Well, it's
and-
because you've grown up just spam watching Spider-Man 3. Obviously, it's not going to have the same impact to you
I
personally.
think
Well,
Deadpool doesn't
gotta
have
think of it
as
at a
many like
More
messages or themes. I think it still does have a few that are really important and good. Although they're making room. I don't think it could do what it did and also have those things. And it doesn't feel like they're missing from the movie to me.
Yeah,
It feels like it had a different direction. It wasn't trying to do what Watchmen did with its high highs. Which
No.
I think Watchmen probably still could rank higher than Deadpool. But I think everything that Deadpool did earns it a really, really high spot. Probably higher than Spider-Man 3 for me. Because it doesn't just pull it off, it performs. It does it almost flawlessly, I think.
yeah, and I can agree with that. Like I said, I think Spider-Man 3 is
I also think the big thing is that there's not really tonal issues in Deadpool for me.
no, because it's a consistent tone. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's
And
super.
pulling that off in a comedy movie is incredible. With
Yes.
a comedy movie with extremely dark moments.
I think that Deadpool in and of itself is super impressive, but like I said, it's hard. It's a hard movie to criticize, but I think in what it does really well. I just think that what it does is almost more niche in a way. It's not quite as like with Spider-Man 3, The Dark Knight, with the Batman, X-Men First Class, even Iron Man. There's like a lot of like great it performs things in like such a great in like magnitude, and I feel that they have like a lot of weight to it. I think with Deadpool it's very consistent, but it's, and as you said, it executes what it does really well. But I just prefer a movie that has those high highs, that has those grandiose moments, that has those things that are like, wow.
I think
I
Deadpool
think
has high
Deadpool has
highs.
very high highs.
I think it has some of the best action scenes on the market. I think it's one of the funniest movies ever made, which that's always subjective, but I think what you can argue objectively at least is that Ryan Reynolds has good comedic timing and he pulls off the jokes really well. And they're not too intrusive. Like he does a lot of, I think some of his best ones are just very casual, like one-off lines, but it doesn't stop the scene. It's like while it's going, it drops a really good one.
Yeah, I can't really, like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it. So
Making me want to rewatch it with all this.
yeah, I mean, I probably will at some point. It's not something that, I guess for me, why I have to think to myself, I don't go back and rewatch it. And so because I don't go back and rewatch it a lot, it's like, and I don't have really like the
Don't
desire.
like that kind of movie.
It's not my type of movie as much of something that I just go back and rewatch. So, and I have to just think about why, and it's just because it's not.
I had to do that with X-Men First Class. And
Yeah.
The other ones.
Yeah, and so I get that, and those movies are lower on the list. I think for me, it's Deadpool's just doesn't. It's the genre that it goes for, which is action comedy with, and it's not like an action comedy like an MCU movie. It really is like an actual action comedy, and it pulls it off really well. I think it has impactful moments. It's just not my type of movie as much. However, you guys seem to like it more, which means I get overruled, and Deadpool will go above Spider-Man 3.
You're saving yourself a lot of flack by doing that. Trust me.
Well, we're already all in deep crap with Spider-Man 3
yeah, if we
being
put
this
it
high.
over the
So
Dark Knight,
no one.
put it over.
I mean, people are gonna riot.
The fact that we are out of MCU movies, is gonna be a problem.
Just so everyone knows,
the Fob does not agree.
I would have put Dark Knight over Spider-Man 3.
The Fob would have put Iron Man 1 at the top. No.
I'm not afraid.
I would've put it
Spider-Man
pretty
3
high.
is better than all of the MCU movies, except maybe.
I would have
3.
put Dark Knight at the very, very top. So good thing I'm not making this list, I suppose.
But again, this is a different.
So we still have Logan.
Logan, I can see the argument for being lower than
Yeah, we
Spider-Man
can
3.
probably
I don't
just-
think I'd put it there.
But
We'll put it between Spider-Man 3 and The Dark Knight for now, just to save
It's
time.
definitely at least there.
It's good. I'm just going off feeling here.
But yeah,
we got
Spider-Man 3's been placed.
the Watchmen versus
Watchmen's all
Logan.
that's left.
Actually,
What's left?
it's
It's
Watch.
We're not Watchmen versus
Deadpool,
everything.
The Watchmen versus the world. Dr. Manhattan makes them not exist.
Well, as we said, Dr. Manhattan is stronger than everyone else, so
Must be better. Let's just put him at the top.
Watchmen,
Just put him
man.
at the
So
top.
I just watched this movie last night. So I'm very.
I
would say
didn't, but
very-
I just like reread up on it. Like
I watched one combat sequence before I left to do something else, and I was like, I was amazed. It was so good, so peak.
So
I need to get this out of the way. It's not as good as the comic. That's not what we're deciding here. I know we said that before, but again, that's not what we're
I've seen
deciding.
so many panels.
It
from
could be
comics.
better, but
yeah.
I've
So
probably seen more panels from Watchmen than any other of these comics,
the
other
difference
than
is,
like Spider-Man.
I think the Watchmen is still a really good representation of its comic and the ideas. It missed some of the themes, but I think it was still the big picture was the same.
Well, I mean, I think The Watchmen is an incredible movie,
All of them are up here.
and I think the Watchmen is really well done for what it is. But
Put it under
the weird thing about Watchmen is I don't even know if I'd have it in the top 3, because so while I like Watchmen a lot, I don't like, I get so confused because that movie has a lot of problems. it's like we're talking about how like, oh, Deadpool, no problem.
The Fob has highlighted that he put the Watchmen in his top 3 movies on his list, and now we're the final ranking. It's maybe getting cut.
It's the interesting thing about Watchmen is it's one of those movies that actually does have a lot of problems. Like Deadpool,
Oh yeah, I
Spider,
agree.
like even Spider-Man 3, I don't. Logan, The Dark Knight, The Batman, First Class, like
But
all of
I
these
might go as
movies.
far as to say it has the highest highs.
And that's the thing. We're going highest highs. See, that was my argument for Spider-Man 3 over Deadpool, but whatever.
Is what it does better than the top 3 of these movies we have right now is Deadpool, Spider-Man 3, and Logan. We need to find somewhere to put
I
Watchmen.
think, in my opinion, it probably goes over Spider-Man 3, but under Deadpool.
I'm kind of feeling that right now. I could see it maybe going under Spider-Man.
Yeah,
3.
same. It's honestly, I could see it either
So,
way.
Probably above Logan. Probably just barely above Logan.
I can't comment.
So the thing about Watchmen is the ending is so
Peak.
sick.
It's
It is
peak.
actual peak. It has the best ending out of all of these.
So when I was rewatching it, like I said, I watched. So
Forget
when I
about-
rewatched it, I
forget
watched the
about Iron Man
3.5
1.
hour version. Don't do that to yourself. I think
Not necessary.
not necessarily. Just watch the theatrical version or the director's
It's like
cut.
watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy all extended.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Point
Torturing
is,
yourself.
I'm gonna get hate for that. Point is, I think that
Right.
Watchmen is just such like it's a movie full of moments, is what I would say, of just like top tiered, top brass comic book moments, or not comic, but just movie moments where you're like, wow, that was crazy. And to the point where there's a scene in the movie that actually made a short. I liked it so much, I made a short film based off of the loose concept of a scene from Watchmen
No.
called Rorschach. Actually,
In my opinion, it's your best short film.
I actually bet that a lot of you probably haven't seen Watchmen, so I'm just gonna tell you that
Let this be actually.
Yeah.
Spoilers ahead. Let this be like a glowing review of The Watchmen.
yes,
Please go see it and come back.
that's what you. It's like Watchmen is a satire on the superhero genre. It was that in the comics, and it's that. And weirdly enough, I think it works as a great satire for superhero movies. So I think that it's really ahead of its time.
You're exactly right on that. Actually, that's kind of why I still like the movie
Yeah.
with the comic, even though they're different. Is like the movie is a satire on the other movies, anyways. That's why it's so good.
And it's like I feel like that movie ages really well because
Yeah.
if you've watched
yeah.
a bunch of Marvel movies and you go and watch Watchmen,
If this
oh
movie
boy.
comes out today, you wouldn't know the difference. It was like, wow, this is so true.
this you'd be like, that's
It fulfilled the prophecy.
like
The
the
Boys is just a better Watchmen, but I didn't say it.
Oh no, it is not.
I can't
not
agree
even.
with, I can't
remotely.
agree with that.
I don't agree with
You
it
have
either.
you mixed the name, you mixed the names up there.
I don't agree with it.
No, it's just like the opening scene of Watchmen.
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 Walking,
The opening
walking
scene
on
was
the street.
Walkman.
The opening scene of Watchmen is so crazy good. The opening credits of Watchmen is so like I'm gonna just a quick spoiler for the opening scene here is they basically have a historical events playing throughout with a song called "The Times Are Changing," but it's a spin on the historical events where basically like it's a play on how things were, like of Nixon becoming president multiple times, JFK getting killed by one of the characters in the movie.
Yeah.
There's a girl, like there's a lesbian couple that kiss as opposed to like a soldier in a famous World War II photo.
Yeah.
And as they're playing it, you just keep hearing the times are changing. Like the times are literally changing as things are going by. And it's just so like, wow. Like that's one thing about Zack Snyder. He just knows how to craft moments and just make things feel so heavy, have so much weight to it. I feel like he gets a little overboard sometimes, like especially in Zack Snyder's Justice League, where you get a sesame seed gets a close-up slow-mo shot. Not necessary,
Yeah.
but
this time I think Zack
Yeah.
Snyder's style works really well, actually.
and it feels
To where I
yeah.
almost think he may have made this movie on accident.
yeah,
He
but
may have made it a really good satire by accident.
He was
but
half asleep making the movie.
It happens.
well, and I think the thing is when Zack Snyder's paired with other people, like you can really feel his creativity work well, and his excessive use of slow-mo while distracting. It feels almost like a comic book panel because he freezes those moments.
Yeah.
And
That's-
it's
Use of slow mo is definitely better than his Justice League cut.
Justice, like, well, we're not talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, but like I think like his
It was
style
the
works
worst use
well.
of slow-mo I've
That-
ever seen. in,
That
like, a
being said,
movie.
his style, while also great for the movie, his directorial deficiencies, let's say, do show through at times. Sometimes you don't need the slow-mo. Sometimes you don't need the sad songs with the slow motion walking scene. You don't need that. Like sometimes you don't. The acting in the movie, some people give all-star performance for the days, like Rorschach, perfect. Like I couldn't imagine anyone playing Rorschach better. Silk Spectre, booty cheek.
Maybe
It's terrible
maybe
performance.
not great.
It's not good. I think Dr. Manhattan works well for what he's trying to do. So I think his stilted
Yeah, the
The
delivery is
movie would be
purposeful,
more
but
enjoyable if I wasn't getting flashed by Dr. Manhattan for half of the film.
that's actually one thing I'll say. If you watch Watchmen, be prepared to see a big,
Yeah,
a big,
I was gonna say that
a
too.
big
as
blue
disclaimer.
penis.
But
But
hard R movie.
yes, and it's a dark movie, but it's a movie with just so much moments and so many like interesting like commentaries on not even like society but superhero
Well,
movies.
It's the quintessential deconstruction of superheroes.
And so even though it has a lot
Alan
of
Moore coming to you and saying, "Hey, these superhero guys, they suck. They're horrible people."
yeah, and so even though it has a lot of technical, it has some technical deficiencies and like some of Zack Snyder's Snyderisms
Yeah, I was
are
gonna say that.
show their hand a little bit too much, and the acting's maybe not greatest. In some moments, it's a movie that just has such weight, and it's a deconstruction. I think its highs make up for its lows, and that's why I think.
I'm feeling between Deadpool and Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. I mean, we just said all
If
that.
Deadpool had like some worse things, maybe, but
I don't think it's. I actually think I want to put it above Logan, but below Spider-Man 3, just because like
all right, they're
It's-
fighting it out.
I
Let's
think
go.
I think its flaws.
You,
It has a lot of flaws.
you might want to
It's not.
you might want to
paced the
hope
best.
this video doesn't get many views. Actually,
it's not.
Spider-Man 3 is number 2 in the entire MCU.
Look,
and
it's
DCU
not. It's
universes.
not paced. Watchmen's not paced the best. It's got a lot of problems. So does Spider-Man 3 in a lot of ways, but like I think that its problems can make it alienating sometimes. But overall, if you like comic book movies and you just
Yeah.
need a refresh,
I think I can now see your point because
yeah,
Spider-Man 3 and Watchmen are actually probably both our top 3, top 4 even are pretty alienating movies.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3 is the only one on here that's a pretty typical comic book movie otherwise.
Yeah.
Even then, it's sort of a spin on that too.
Well, and the thing with Deadpool is
all 4 of the top movies, like the main character is kind of a bad person.
yeah.
That's fun.
It's so, and that's the thing is, I think with like Deadpool, while it's like if you like that type of hard R humor, if you don't, it's really crass, it's really violent, and it's really bloody. And if that's like, it's not a typical superhero movie. If you don't like that, you're not gonna like Deadpool. And
Yeah, but if you don't like comic book movies, you probably won't like Spider-Man 3.
exactly.
My-
And if you don't like, well,
Well,
there's a lot
It's
to
about
not.
it's about what
all I'm
these
gonna
do
say
best.
is my like top 5 movies of all time. Like 4 of them are John Wick movies. So
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so I guess at the end of the day, I actually think what Watchmen did and what it has the impact it had on the genre. I mean, it really does blow all of these out of the water with the impact. It's just that I think in the end, with the movie trying to succeed at what it was succeeding at, I think Deadpool does what it succeeds at a little bit better. Spider-Man 3 might
Yeah, and
need to be convinced more though.
I think Deadpool is, like I said, it wouldn't be anywhere near this for me just because it's not what I look for when I watch movies. It's not necessarily my tastes. I mean, not that I don't enjoy it, but I think it does what it does very well, and it's hard to argue that.
Mhm.
And and to be fair, I think my tastes were actually were given to me by Spider-Man 3 as like a very young lad. So
Yeah.
it makes sense why it's high up for me.
You've been brainwashed by
Like
by
the reason
Bully
I have the
Maguire.
tastes I have is because of Spider-Man 3. So I think I think a lot of these movies are just really good. And honestly, unlike everyone here, I like all of the movies on this list, other than like maybe Wonder Woman. So
I mean, I like all of the movies on this list. I'd say
I
that.
like all the movies on this page.
Well, I like all the movies on this list that I've seen.
So I guess let's just go through real quick. Do we have?
Oh, there goes Iron Man. Whatever.
Let's see. At number 14, we have the Incredible Hulk.
Ooh.
Number
okay.
13,
Banger.
BVS Ultimate.
Banger.
Batman v Superman, for those who don't know. At number 12, we have Wonder Woman.
Look at that.
11, Spiderverse 2.
low, too
10
low.
is Man of Steel. Man of Steel made it to top 10, so good for me.
It should have been Spider-Verse too. I'll let you. I'll let you get that one. You know, just to
Okay.
save time.
Man of Steel, top 10 superhero movies, confirmed.
And now starting with the good ones.
All right, and then we have 9, Infinity War. 8, Iron Man. 7, X-Men First Class. 6, The Batman. 5, The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight made it to the top 5, so
Should have
that's
been top
good.
one.
That's- yeah. that's
4
typical.
is Logan. 3 is Watchmen. 2 is Spider-Man 3, and
Deserved.
number 1 is Deadpool. So if we look at the top 5, Marvel has more in there. So I guess when it comes to quality, looks like Marvel's going to have to win this round for having the better movies. So that's the podcast, everybody. Or the Podcastle, I should say.
The best theatrically released movies.
Theatrically. Let's put that
Except
asterisk
for
in there.
BVSU.
Sort
Even-
of. It's asterisk there. So
I think even base BVS is better than the Hulk. I actually very much dislike that movie.
well, you're a hater. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. What do you think is the best superhero movies of all time? Do you like DC more than Marvel? And I will see you later.